You're listening to the Hustled Up Podcast. I'm Laura Natoli.
And I'm Holly Silva, and we are best friends since birth turned multi-passionate entrepreneurs and co-owners of Chores and More, a successful service-based business where everybody is treated like a best friend.
Welcome to our show where tactical business education meets fun and real conversations about this wild journey called life.
Get ready to be inspired. Grab your headphones, turn up the volume, and let's hustle up. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to another episode of Hustled Up. We are your hosts. My name is Holly.
And my name is Laura.
And before we jump into today's topic, I obviously want to do what we always do and remind you to pause this if you love what you're hearing. It helps us get into the earbuds of fellow entrepreneurs. If you could just leave us a 5-star rating, a little love letter if the platform you're on allows. And you can also give us a thumbs up if you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, and you can also hit the notification bells if you want to be notified whenever we post a new episode. Okay. Almost forgot to breathe for a second there. And yeah, that would be great. So jumping into today's topic, we got a short and sweet one for you, but it's a little reminder topic, especially for the people in our industry, but this does apply to every industry. But our industry falls guilty of not doing what we're going to remind you to do, and that is to keep track of your numbers. So if you're, especially in the cleaning industry, if you're just going out and you're collecting payments, probably collecting cash, some of you, which shame if you're just taking all this money and you don't know what you're doing with it or where it's going or who it's going to. No good. So we're going to talk a little bit about what you should be tracking, what numbers you should be tracking. And that's just a financial example, but we're going to do some non-financial, we're going to talk about some non-financial things as well. What you should be tracking, why it's important to track it. And we're kind of just going to talk about that. So if you're looking to scale your cleaning business, this is an important episode for you because it's very tactical on how to keep track of what is working in your business and what isn't. So this is a really good episode. You're going to want to listen. Stay tuned.
Are you tired of spending your entire weekend cleaning when you could be going out to brunch with your girls?
First of all, I love brunch. And second of all, yes, there are so many things I could be doing instead of cleaning my house on the weekend.
Oh yeah, like playing video games.
Or watching a movie with the kids.
Going on a date with your significant other.
Taking your dog to the dog park.
Going to the movies.
Solving world hunger.
Yes! Exactly. So this is why it is such a good idea to call up Chores and More for your deep and recurring cleaning needs.
And do you want to know something really, really cool?
What?
If anybody mentions Hustled Up when they call to book, they can receive up to $100 off their deep cleaning.
Up to $100 off. What are you doing still sitting there? Pick up the phone now, mention our podcast, and never have to spend your weekends cleaning again.
Simply go to choresandmorellc.com. You can fill out our request quote form there, or give us a call, send us a text, 631-397-0177. It is time to get back to doing the things you love. Let us take care of the cleaning. Okay, friends, we are back, and we need to have this conversation. This is going to be a little bit of not like a tough love thing, but if you're not keeping track of those numbers, consider this tough love. Consider it. There are so many things that we keep track of personally at our size, at a business of our size. We keep track of things weekly and monthly. And Laura had mentioned before we hopped on the recording, and this is a good point, that once you get really big, you're going to want to start keeping track of things daily. But we don't do that yet. But weekly and monthly, it's really important to do. So Laura, if you want to just tell them some of the things you keep track of.
Yeah, totally. This is going to vary from business to business, right? But this is things that I think specifically service-based businesses should track. And again, some of this stuff is applicable to like retail stores and things of that nature. But for us, what we do is we keep track of all our leads that can't come in. So every single lead, whether we quoted them, whether we got in touch with them, if they came through on our website, regardless, if they called and we didn't even reach back in touch with them, we keep track of every single lead that comes through the door so that we know how many are coming in each week and each month. Then we keep track of how many of those leads did we quote and how many of them did we convert. And I like to keep this number at 50%. That's my target range, is 50% from quoted to converted. And I know some companies like to keep track of, lead to conversion, but I like to keep track of how many did I quote, how many did I convert to a sale. Then we also keep track of how many initial cleanings did we do, or one-time cleanings in a week, and did we convert them? Did they sign on for, a biweekly, weekly, or monthly service with us? So that's really important. We want to keep track of our attrition, which I know we've talked a little bit about attrition and keeping it on the lower side here. And attrition is such an important thing to keep track of. And we'll go into why all of this is important. But your attrition is the number of clients you lose per month, is how we keep track of it. And that could be for any reason, whether or not they left because they moved, or maybe they found somebody cheaper, or maybe the quality was bad, or, financial reasons, whatever reason that could be. Keep track of every single client that you lose, no matter what the reason is. And we actually take this even a step further. We have a attrition tracker where we not only keep track of how many did we lose, we keep track of the name, what technician was serving them, how long have they been with us, and how frequently were we servicing them. So we keep track of everything. We also keep track of how many interviews we had, and we keep track of everything. Job interviews, how many people applied, how many interviews were booked, how many actually showed up, who did we offer the job to, who showed up for their first day of work. So you can see that everything that you do track, it's going to have multiple layers to. And revenue, of course, is another huge one. You always want to keep track of your revenue, obviously, no matter what business you're in. And the last thing for us, which I don't think a lot of companies do keep track of, but knowing who Holly and I are as people, we like to keep track of our social media numbers. And we just started doing this monthly. So we keep track of how many followers we gained on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. And it can be really eye-opening because, 1 month we'll kill it on TikTok and the next month we killed it on Facebook. And there's no way of knowing any of these things unless you are keeping track. And I know Holly said tough love, but we're coming at you from experience. Because for the longest time, Holly and I always say, how do we run our business before we started actually getting organized and keeping track of anything? Because for the longest time, we didn't keep track of literally anything. Nothing. And I wish I had those numbers now, right? How long did it take us to start tracking?
Yeah, it's a good point, because you may be listening to this as a solo cleaner, for example, and be like, oh, this episode doesn't pertain to me. Or maybe you have one helper, right? We call them helpers when you first start hiring. And you're like, oh, I don't really need to keep track of things. I'm just going to pay them, off the books, and I'm going to keep some money. And I don't know how many leads I get. I just take calls while I'm cleaning as much as I can. And if you think that you don't need to keep track based on that, you are sorely mistaken. You should keep track of your numbers, from your first day out. From your first day out, you should be keeping track, whether it's just you, whether you're cleaning, whether you're not cleaning, it does not matter. You should be keeping track of different things. And these are just a few options that we gave you, but there are so many things you could be keeping track of, financial and not, because there's a lot of reasons for this. And one of them is that you'll be able to see if something is broken. And I know we push it all the time, systems, processes, procedures, you want to have all of these things. If you're, for example, if you're booking a ton of initial cleanings, right? And you're going out and you're doing so many initial cleanings, but you haven't signed on any new recurring clients, then something is broken there. And you won't know because you're not paying. If you're not keeping track, you're not even going to be paying attention to how many initials you're converting to recurring service. But if you know and you say, oh my goodness, we only converted one person from 10 initial cleanings, and the rest of them, ghosted or fell off or told us they don't want to move forward, something is wrong with our initial cleanings. We're doing something wrong with these initial cleanings. And sometimes, don't get me wrong, you're not going to convert everybody to recurring service, but you should have a certain goal in mind and you should try to hit that target. I don't know what ours is, but we just kill it all the time as it is. I feel like we're converting over 75% pretty much.
Yeah, it's usually at least 75%.
Yeah. And that's high. I would say probably 50%. If you can at least get 50% of your initial cleanings to recurring, this can also help you forecast your growth. So we have a marketing person that we work with closely, And he helps us based on what we're able to, how many people we're able to reach for a quote, how many people were able to convert to the initial cleaning, and how many were able to convert to recurring. We're able to kind of forecast, like, okay, based on these numbers, based on Laura's closing rate, even just at the beginning of the sale, how many leads do we need to add X amount of clients to our calendar? Like how many leads do we even need to get in to add, let's say, 10 new recurring jobs? So you're able to kind of do some fun forecasting, and you can work with people to help you with this if like you don't understand numbers, because I'm like an idiot when it comes to numbers, I'm telling you. So we have a lot of people who help us with these. But it's a really cool tool if you're keeping track of your numbers to know, like, where can I go? Where can I be at the end of the year? How many clients can I realistically add at the end of the month? Because if you're not keeping track, you might say, oh, I want to add 20 clients. I want to add 30 clients to my calendar, but you know that you don't even bring in that many leads. So you're going to feel like you're falling short of your goals and things like that. So it helps you set realistic goals as well. So you absolutely want to keep track of those numbers. And again, it'll help you forecast the future, and it's going to help you fix things that are broken, which is super duper important, because then you're just not going to improve and you're not going to be able to grow. If you don't know that your initial cleaning process is faulty and you're just not performing well on initial cleanings, you're not going to do anything to fix it. And you could be pouring money into your marketing to get leads, but that doesn't matter because you're not going to book recurrings. Even if you're booking a ton of initial cleanings, you're not going to grow your business, because the majority of, especially in our industry, in the cleaning industry, the majority of our money comes from the recurring client. That's important for us.
Yeah, I think it's so true, because I feel like tracking your numbers is great, but there's really no point to it unless you're going to go into problem solving mode and fix whatever the problem is. So not only tracking is important, but also having those goals in mind, where if you start to dip below those goals, you can sit down with your team and say, okay, why did this number go so low? Okay, now that we know why, what can we do to fix it and to improve it? And you always want to have some kind of action plan, because like, Holly said, we kill it with the initial cleanings. But a few months ago, the sales conversion number dropped so low. And Holly and I sat down and we were like, what is going on? What is broken in our sales process? And, we said, okay, let's lower our rates just a tad. So we lowered our rates just a tad. And I said, you know what, let me take a sales course. So I went online, I purchased a sales course from our coaching program, said, I never got formally trained in sales. I've been kind of winging it. Let me take some professional training and see if I can improve my skill. And with those two combined things, we were able to raise that conversion rate again. So I think it's really smart to just, don't use the numbers as a tool to beat yourself up. Use it as a tool to say, okay, how can we improve? How can we get better? For a lot of people, I think that part of tracking and not tracking is laziness. Let's be real. People don't want to do it. It takes time. But more so than that, I think people like to bury their heads in the sand. They don't want to look themselves in the face and ask those hard questions of, why are we failing at this? What can we do to improve this? So come up with a game plan once you have those numbers. Don't just write them down and put them in a closet somewhere and never touch them again. It's so important that you analyze them.
Yeah, and I think it's also safe to say that you can't be too thorough when it comes to keeping track of things and detailed. We always have, like, all of our spreadsheets have like a note section, right? Because you always want to like be as thorough as you can. Because, for example, I think it was last month, Laura's quoting number was low. So we got a lot of leads in, but she didn't quote a lot of them. And we were like, okay, why didn't we quote a lot of these people? And we realized it was because they wanted cleanings that we couldn't accommodate. Why couldn't we accommodate them? Because we were understaffed. So we went in, we boosted our hiring budget for the month, and we hired 3 new people. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're so overstaffed now. We're so overstaffed. Like, we are dangerously overstaffed. But now we anticipate that for the month of July, people are going to be like, you can get me in tomorrow? We're going to be like, sure. Here you go. You're in.
We'll come over right now. You want in 5 minutes? We got you.
Yeah. We'll teleport right on over. So it's important to also, you want to like see the numbers at a glance and like know if you're up, if you're down, what's up. But in order to properly analyze those numbers, like Laura said, it's important to keep detailed notes and be thorough in tracking that as well, because then you'll know. Because, if you're seeing that you didn't quote a lot of people, but you don't know why, you're not really, you'll have to deep dive to figure it out. For us, we have notes. We know it's because for a lot of them, we didn't bother quoting them because they said, oh, I'm just going to go search elsewhere if you can't accommodate me for the day that I need. And it's like, all right, well, I guess there's nothing we can do about that. But how can we fix it? We can hire, we can get people out of training, and just go totally crazy with it. So that's what we've been doing. And, that was super helpful for sure. And, in retrospect, it also helps you realize what is working. So, for example, when I think it was one of the months that when we were keeping track of our social media numbers, our TikTok number like skyrocketed. And we were like, oh my gosh, this is great. What worked on that? We started forming connections on TikTok. We had the crazy cleaning lady right here on this podcast. That helped a lot. She's really helped us get a lot of followers. And just posting more consistently, posting with our faces, talking to people, engaging more in the community. There are things that we've been doing that were helping us grow on TikTok. So we're going to keep doing it. It's working. So you're able to see what's also working because you don't want to waste your time doing things that aren't really working. So it's going to help you realize like what you're doing well as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's so important. And kind of going on the same vein of that, it's also really important to track your numbers because then you're going to be able to see how far you've come. And I think oftentimes we don't really pause and say, wow, we hit a milestone, or wow, look at this number. But because Holly and I are so meticulous at tracking everything, like I'm pretty sure since we started doing this, we have not missed a week. Like there was not one week where we're like, oh, we just didn't do it. If I have to do it late, I'll do it late. But it gets done every single week, every single month, regardless of the situation that we're in, regardless of whether we had to go back in the field and clean. We make sure that this is a must-do task. And this way, I think it was at the end of last year, I'm pretty sure, didn't we go to IHOP? And I brought all the snapshots, all of the weekly and the monthly snapshots. I'm pretty sure we went to IHOP and we just compared. We compared the start of the year to this year. I think I even did a yearly snapshot. I took all the numbers for the entire month and put them into a yearly snapshot. And we just sat down and we said, wow, look at our revenue number from this month to this month. Look at how much it improved. And if you're not keeping track, you're not going to know when you hit those milestones. Like we had a major revenue milestone last month and we were so overjoyed, and it really just pushed us to say, okay, we got this far. Now let's move the goalpost even further. Let's move that goal even further. And it's fun. Like just straight up, it's fun to be able to celebrate those numbers.
Yeah. And it also is, like it came at a time when we really, really needed it. We were having a rough time. That was the week that we got our 1-star review. You all know about that. There was other things that were going on that I can't even remember now. They're so far out of my memory, probably because my brain just pushes the trauma out at this point. But I remember it was, a Friday or maybe a Thursday, and we were like, all right, let's just go through this. We have to figure out this number. And we figured it out, and then we calculated our run rate based on that number, and it was major. And like I was like tearing up immediately because I was like, oh my God, this was like a horrible week, and I'm so stressed and I'm overwhelmed. And we've spoken about burnout a few times on this podcast. Me and Laura deal with it all the time. I feel it right now as I'm sitting here, like I'm like so tired, but it just pushes you to keep going. It makes it feel like the hard work is worth it. Because let's be real, I think every entrepreneur feels this from time to time, not all the time, but sometimes. Why am I doing all this? What is it for? Is it worth it? And the numbers don't lie. You see that growth, you see those things that are working, and you say, okay, this isn't for nothing. And so you're able to celebrate your victories when you're keeping track of your numbers. If we didn't keep track, we wouldn't know. We just wouldn't have known. So it's like so important to keep track of all of your numbers to see, where you're going. And it does help you move that goalpost and kind of figure out like, where can I go? Where can I be? What do I need to get there? Like, what do I have now? What do I need to get there? It helps you mind map and like map out your entire business, and everything, all the numbers work together. So it's important to keep track of all of them. And like I said, do it from the beginning. Because I remember, this is like a little side story. I remember in January, it was so slow. It was so slow for us in January. January, February, I was like, oh my God, our business is going to fail. We're backsliding. I was like, this is not good. This is so bad. And then we didn't really have anything to compare it to because we weren't keeping track of numbers for like 5 years in business, or maybe a little less, like 4.5 years. We didn't keep track. So I'm going to assume January and February slow for everyone, but we don't know that and to this day we don't, because we never kept track of those numbers when we were starting off. And for the first 4 years of our business, or 5, whatever it is. So going back to do this at any size is so important. Like, do it now. Start it today. We're recording on a Monday, but it's a Tuesday. Print out put it in a notebook if you don't have a printer, whatever, or make a Google form for yourself, or design something in Microsoft Word, print it out and fill it out every week so that and you just take a few minutes. It doesn't take that long. Take a few minutes to keep track and write everything down, analyze it either with your team or on your own if it's just you. And we're working on something called level 10 meetings. We have not succeeded fully with these yet because we just have trouble prioritizing sometimes, and this is a new thing for us. But it's important to really analyze it, set goals, figure out if you met your previous goals, hold your team accountable, hold yourself accountable. It's really important. So it's more than just keeping track of them. It's acting on them, as Laura said earlier.
Yeah. And I think what you said, Holly, the numbers don't lie, is so important to keep in mind, because I feel like we can all sit here and say, oh, I feel like this was a really good month, or I feel like I converted a lot of leads, or I feel like our sales were high, but you don't actually know. You have no context of what's going on, especially if you're a business owner. Like, your mind is in a million places at once. You have no idea unless you actually have data to back up the facts. So, you can think things and guess, but the numbers do not lie. They are there for a reason. They will guide you. They will let you know what to do next. They will let you know what's working. And I just can't stress this enough. It's so important. Yeah. I wish if I had these numbers from when we first started out, I would just for my little curiosity mind, I would love to know what our numbers were when we started out. Just because I'm so curious. Yeah. What were they? I wish.
Beats me. I have no idea.
Bad, I think.
Yeah. But going off of where we were last January, which is kind of when we started to keep track a little bit, we've more than doubled our revenue. Oh, yeah. We've more than doubled it, and we know that. And it's fun because it's not just a guess. So I think we've doubled our revenue. No, we more than doubled it. And our business is closer to $1 million than it is $0. And that's exciting. These are exciting things that we did not know, and now we know, and it's exciting and it's fun. It feels like we're doing something right, but also sometimes your numbers give you a little tough love. This is what you're doing wrong though, honey. you better fix this because this is a mess. But you got to take the good with the bad. And, I still get scared to look at my numbers, to look at our numbers. Yeah. It's scary. It is. It's really scary, but you just got to do it and set a game plan. And, anything can be fixed in a business. There's no hopelessness in your business. You can fix anything. So it's important to know what needs fixing and what doesn't.
Yeah. And I know we're talking specifically about numbers, within the business, but I think it's also really important to look at your finances. That's a whole nother topic, but don't bury your head in the sand with your finances either. Because I know a lot of people do this with their personal finances. And I'm really excited actually for an episode that's coming up shortly. We have a guest on who's going to be talking all about finances. We already recorded it. It's a great episode. So I'm really excited for that. That's next week. That is next week. Yes. Mm-hmm. Oh, you guys are in for such a treat next week. We had the best conversation, but a lot of people bury their head in the sand, and especially entrepreneurs, usually they don't get into it because they love math and they love numbers. No, they like creating. They like making something out of nothing. So I feel like entrepreneurs in particular like to bury their head in the sand with the finances, which we were also doing for a while. We just hired a bookkeeper, actually, is really exciting. So we're going to be doing a deep dive into that as well. But just look at everything. Burying your head in the sand with anything is only going to slow your progress, your business progress, and your personal development progress. You have to look the numbers in the face, the good, the bad, the ugly. You have to look them down and know what's going on within your business.
Period.
And that's on period. That's it.
I have
That's
nothing
it.
to add. I have nothing
Yep.
to add. That was perfect. That was beautiful. So,
Yeah.
question for you guys, and I'm gonna leave this in the Spotify questions because they allow you to do a Q&A.
Ooh.
Let us know if you're keeping track of your numbers, and if so, what are you keeping track of? And what idea have we given you that maybe you want to start keeping track of? We'd love to know. And we have other ones too. Like there are other numbers that we are working on, like getting a handle on as well. But I feel like we gave some really good examples. So definitely, I hope you had a notebook, like take these ideas and run with them. And in the meantime, and especially up until next week, which again, tune in, we have an amazing financial like expert coming on. She's gonna blow your minds with some of her stuff. She's so cool. But until then, you can connect with us on social media. We are on Instagram at Hustled Up Podcast. And if you want to connect with me, all of my links will be below because they're all different. I don't remember what they are anymore. So
I'm dead. I'm simple. Laura Anatoli on everything. Just go find me.
yes, and make sure you connect with Chores and More. You can connect with us on Instagram where it's more like business based and you can see what we're doing. But on TikTok, we don't have a Hustled Up TikTok, so we kind of do a little bit of both on our Chores and More TikTok. So you'll see us talking a lot about business on there. There's a lot of just funny shenanigans, which we've been trying to post a dance on Fridays. So we've gotten like a little better at that. But we have a lot of fun on there and we talk about the podcast a lot on there as well. So you definitely want to connect with us over on TikTok at Chores and More. And if you ever want to send us an email, you can send us an email, hustleduppodcast@gmail.com. And if you want to come on the show, we would love to have you on. Just go to hustleduppodcast.com. You'll see a little link at the top that says be our guest. You can fill that out. It's just so that we can get to know you and what you want to talk about and schedule a recording date with you. Or you can always just email us and we'll send you the link if you don't know, how to do that or whatever. But until next time, I hope you guys kick some major booty this week. Have a good week and we'll see you next time.